Good afternoon, foxgloves and snapdragons. Welcome to Friday's Author Reads here on Fate Productions. I am your host, Fairy Princess Lolly, and today I am here with urban fantasy and cyberpunk author Megan Mackie. I got that right, urban fantasy cyberpunk.
You got it absolutely right.
Woo-hoo! I love it when I do that. So, Megan, yes, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what you've brought today.
Okay, well, I am an author living in Chicago, and not unsurprisingly enough, I set my first novel series, The Finder of the Lucky Devil, in Chicago. Let's see, I have been published now for over 3 years. I've just recently been republished by eSpec. I originally was an indie author, and now eSpec picked me up because I was doing pretty well and I needed some extra support to kind of continue growing. And for the last couple of years, up until we all had to stay home, I've been traveling around the con circuit in the United States, along with other famous authors like Jim Butcher, Kevin Anderson, Keith DeCandido, Claudia Gray, just to name a few, and those are just off the top of my head. So yeah, and I'm hoping to get back on that circuit here once things open up again.
Yeah, well, fortunately, it seems like things will still be going in July and August, so hopefully you'll have some events in the later part of the year that you can make it to. Are you using the extra time right now to write even more, or how is it affecting you, the whole quarantine?
It's been interesting. Like, my kids are home all the time and they aren't going back to school anytime soon. And I've had to kind of like hard and fast take over the homeschooling stuff, which is a steep plateau-y climbing thingy. Other than that, it's been mostly fine. I have gone back to my day job, which I'm a medical massage therapist, and they changed some orders around to make me an essential worker at that point. So then I went back to work about a month ago. But prior to that, yeah, I've been like writing up a storm. I've written, while I've been off, my book series has 2 books of the main series and then 2 spinoffs. And I finished writing the first draft of the 3rd book, just as quarantine about hit. And that's off to the editors, but it's sort of stuck in production right now because everything's behind. And in that time, I wrote 2 short stories, which will be coming out. And I am in the process of writing a novella series of something completely different, because I mostly needed a palate cleanser. So instead of writing about urban fantasy cyberpunk set in Chicago, I am writing about post-zombie apocalypse. So like after the zombie apocalypse has happened and civilization has fallen, and how that the leftover humans are trying to survive and maybe kind of get over what happened. And it sort of fits with what's going on right now.
So is all of this stuff that's going on, is that good fodder for material for you, in considering, that you're writing post-apocalyptic and cyberpunk and all of these things are happening, and it's I mean, I was just reading something about artificial intelligence yesterday, and I don't know. Yeah. So I'm like, is this just providing you like a wealth of ideas that are spawning? You're like, oh, I can work that into a story.
Absolutely. And it is very strange right now because stuff that was fiction like a year ago or 2 years ago are now not fiction. They're nonfiction. And it's kind of like this is making it very hard to come up with new ideas in cyberpunk when you're already creating things even more advanced than what I thought up. I have one instance in the first book where I tried to use, what is it called? The Halon system that puts out fires in computer labs. And Yes. We've already moved beyond that. It's supposed to be this foamy stuff that falls all over everything and puts out the fire in a computer room. And I was just like, well, too late now. I published it. When I found out. But yeah, like with all of this stuff, I originally wrote the post-apocalypse story, before I published, and it was me just kind of goofing off with something. And I took this draft and broke it into 3 parts to make it 3 novellas, because it really was 3 separate things happening. But I go back to read what I wrote a few years ago, and it's kind of eerie. Some of the things I thought of about like what would happen in a pandemic situation, we are now experiencing. you know? So
Yeah, definitely.
absolutely a strange situation we're all in, and it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, a little prophetic, kind of. So, if you are all joining us from home, thank you for being here this afternoon. And before I turn this over to Megan to read to you, I just want to say, please hit the like and subscribe. All of her information, as well as also in the low bar description. And you can go to her pages, her Instagram, her Twitter, check her out and give her some support and likes and subscribes as well. And then at the end of the show today, we will be doing a free book giveaway, plus, because she is so, yes, of the book that she's going to read to us from, which is The Finder of the Lucky Devil. And also, because she is so generous and awesome, thank you so much. We have a special bonus for our Patreon patrons that will be going out to you guys after the show is over. So, yay, good thumbs up bonuses for you guys. In thanks. So, Megan, I will go ahead and turn it over to you and let you share, the premise of the book and on with the reading. So, and during this time, if you are in the audience I will be there. I will be on mute on screen, but I will be in the audience in the chat. And if you guys have questions, which we love, please ask the questions and I will write them down and we will talk about them after she is done reading.
Okay, so this takes place in an alternate Chicago where magic and technology are in competition with each other. We are following Rune LeVoux. She has a magical talent for finding things. She meets the cybernetically altered corporate spy who wants her to help him find a wanted criminal called Anna Masterson. The problem is that she is Anna Masterson. And I'm going to be starting from chapter 3, which, is a little unconventional, but it's basically that whole premise is starting to come to a head. Okay, so here we go. Rune stood frozen outside her office door, a rabbit trembling in a trap. With no way to get through the door at her back, and the chances of Bull rushing past St. Benedict very slim, she felt almost giddy. The years of hiding were over. Someone had finally found her. Even though she was terrified, there was also an insane feeling of relief. "Did you write this?" she asked, holding out the slip of paper toward him with trembling fingers. His head cocked to the side again. "I saw that the paper disappeared from his pocket, but I couldn't quite work out where it went. Is that a spell or something?" he asked. "Yes," Rune responded too quickly. "So, then, you are the magic user I was looking for." He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. Rune eyed the hand he still had in his pocket, trying to guess whether he had a gun or a knife, as if that made any sort of difference at this range. Was he here to kill her? Was he here to take her back? What do you want with me?" She pressed herself harder against the door. "I just want my wish fulfilled. I wish to find Anna Masterson," he said, moving closer. "Why?" Rune stuttered, shivering with fear. "I'm not the only one looking for her, and I need to find her first. I was told the Lucky Devil was the place to find help. Has anyone else approached you about this issue?" Rune blinked. You wish to find Anna Masterson?" "Yes, I understand that if someone needs to be found, this is the place to find that sort of help." He stopped a few feet in front of her. "It took me a great deal of trouble to get a hold of that coin and the instructions on its use. I was led to believe that in exchange for the coin, I would be able to talk to someone who specializes in granting difficult to fulfill wishes." Rune blinked again, trying to force her sluggish brain to work. You mean you're here to get me to find Anna Masterson?" She couldn't believe her ears. He paused, visibly perplexed by her response. "Is that a strange request?" No, it isn't. Well, maybe a little," Rune rambled nonsensically. She was so relieved that she thought she was going to throw up. He wasn't here for her. At least he didn't know how close he was to finding what he was looking for. The woman once called Anna Masterson started to think quickly again. He said others were looking for her. What did they want? Should she just run now? No. She had to keep him talking. She needed to know who and why. Do you want to come into my office or something where we can discuss this? She asked clumsily. That would be perfect. Yes, he agreed. Still, he had that hand in his pocket. He was hiding something. How much of a bad guy was he? Maybe she should just run now and ask questions later. Why was he looking for her? Yes, well, this is it. But I forgot my keys. 1 second. She tried to move around him to head back into the barroom, or maybe to run out the door instead. Before she could pass, St. Benedict moved suddenly, blocking her escape. His hand slammed, palm down against the glass surface of the door to one side of Rune's head, causing the door to shudder. She yelped, surprised when it didn't break. No, please, she whimpered. Sorry, he said, so close his breath washed over her face. I'm about to pass out here. His head fell forward, leaning against her shoulder. His breath was labored and warm through the material of her shirt. Oh, God, are you all right? Rune looked frantically between his hand and his head, uncomfortably close to hers, before doing a double take back to his hand. Across the glass ran streaks of blood, leaving greasy smears on the pebbled surface and making the palm slide closer to her head. Oh, God, what happened? Rune asked. Need to sit down. He staggered forward. Rune caught him in time, using the door to brace herself against his heavy weight. I'm sorry, he mumbled. His head lulled as he fought for consciousness. Blood pressure, loss, body is just reacting. Just gotta sit down. But I don't have the key, she said. St. Benedict stopped responding intelligently. Oh, damn it. Rune took a deep breath and focused on trying to remember the exact pronunciation of the keyword to open Maddie's office door. Abraxas. Yes, abraxas. The Latin word for door is... Rune gripped the door handle, pressing her thumb on the crystal shard in the middle, and called out, Abraxas Aperio. With a gratifying click, the doorknob turned and the door swung inward. The disc lamp came on automatically. She staggered a bit without the door to brace her, but managed to lead St. Benedict into the office. His feet moved him forward, but it was like trying to walk a drunk man. She maneuvered him into one of the bucket chairs in front of the desk. Sitting down, he seemed to regain the ability to hold himself up, and Rune felt she could leave him for a moment. She went back to shut the door of the office. For a second, she hesitated at the threshold, looking down the long, empty hall. I'm really sorry about this. I apologize. Not exactly making the best impression here, but I really do need your help, St. Benedict muttered behind her. Rune shut the office door. Abraxas, Abraxas lock, Rune ordered, and that idea became a reality. The noise from the bar stopped completely. The clink of glasses, the distant chatter, and even the hum of the air conditioner that you didn't notice until it was gone. Rune looked back at the door in surprise. Well, if it was that simple, why did I have to learn all that Latin? She complained, giving the door a dirty look. She wasn't the only one who noticed the change in the door. Almost immediately, St. Benedict's head snapped up, his eyes locking with Rune's. What did you do? He demanded, his eyes darting to the door. Lock the door. Now you're my prisoner, she quipped lamely, trying not to think about how she threw away her chance to run. Locking the door made her feel a whole lot safer, but that was crazy considering the immediate danger was in the room with her. We're not at the bar anymore. You cast a spell, he asked, though it sounded more like an accusation. Yes, it's a spell. The clever green-blue eyes calculated. Yet you claim you're just a normal human, hominal? How are you tricking the ID readers and the aura reading talents, for that matter? Maddie set up the spell in the door. I just invoked it. Most anyone can do that, Rune said defensively. It was kind of true. But you have magic talent, he pushed. I'll get the first aid kit. You're bleeding all over the carpet. Rune dodged the question and went into the small bathroom connected to the office, flipping on the light as she entered. She ran a couple claws underwater, then fished out the first aid kit, an old tackle box full of supplies, from the cabinet beneath the sink. Just as she was about to turn back to the office, she caught her reflection in the mirror. Her hair hung in damp waves around her face from the Pinot Grigio, and across her right cheek was a small cut, with a stream of drying blood marking a line down her cheek. Why didn't anybody tell me? She muttered, and picked up one of the dampened claws to swipe away the blood. The cut was small and barely noticeable afterward. She would deal with it later. When she came back into the room, she found St. Benedict standing by the window looking through the wood-slatted blinds, which leaked streetlight into the room. You should sit down. I don't think I can catch you twice, she said, and he let the blind clack back into place. Where are we? My office, Rune said, dodging the question he was really asking. I came into a room on the ground floor, and now we are 3 stories off the ground. Also, this room should be facing a back alley, and the view is of a main thoroughfare. St. Benedict recounted. I'll ask you again. Where are we? She nearly backpedaled at the cold, hard expression that still smiled on his face. Most people don't notice that, she said lightly, as if it was no big deal, and when her attempt to smile back didn't warm it, she sighed. She pointed toward the door. It's a transfer door. It links 2 places that are not in the same space to one another, just like Lucky Devil's pocket links to my pocket. It's just simple magic, nothing to worry about. St. Benedict's only response was a blank stare. That's how I got the coin. It went to my pocket using the same method. He continued to stare. Rune shifted from foot to foot. Could you go back to smiling? It was way less intimidating. You came looking for my help, right? He wavered again, grabbing the back of the desk chair to steady himself. Sorry, you're right. I did come looking for magical help. I shouldn't make a scene when I encounter some. I'm not trying to be threatening. I'm uncomfortable not understanding what is happening around me. And it's just taking all my focus to stay upright. You need to sit down, Rune repeated. She set down the first aid kit and rushed to keep him from falling. Did this happen during the bar fight? He collapsed into the desk chair, which rocked dangerously back before balancing forward so that his feet stabilized him on the floor. Somehow in the move, he caught her wrist, using it to also steady himself. Rune waited patiently as he finished leaning over. She assumed to do that breathing between your legs thing that was supposed to help when a person felt faint. He set his left hand against the desk, and she realized too late that he had grabbed her with his bloody right hand. Goosebumps skittered up her skin, but she didn't dare try to pull away. She told herself to suck it up. He was hurt and needed help. He didn't look at her, just hung his head and breathed slowly. Maybe I should call emergency services. This doesn't look good at all, and I'm not really trained in this kind of first aid. Rune started to say, but when she tried to step back to reach for the landline phone, her patient held on with surprising strength. First, you are going to tell me where I am, he panted. You're just in my office, Rune tried to reassure, but St. Benedict's grip tightened around her wrist, and she realized that now he was trying to intimidate her. Ow, that hurts. Where are we? He asked in a slow, careful voice, his eyes flashing dark again with a deadly warning. We're in the former owner's old office, which is in Bucktown. The bar is in the neighborhood of Uptown. They are connected by a door between them. Now let me go, Rune answered too quickly, her voice rising with mounting distress. Connected by magic, St. Benedict muttered and released her. Rune backed away, watching as St. Benedict rubbed his face. My apologies again. All this magic has me on edge. Rune kept her distance. Why did you come looking for magical help if you're afraid of magic? St. Benedict chuckled to himself. When you start to run out of options, even the devil's offer looks enticing. If you want to call the authorities again, feel free, but I'm not here to threaten you. The half smile slipped back onto his face. So, do you think you can help me? No. The person you want is Maddie. She was the wizard, and I'm sorry to tell you that she died a month ago. Rune seamlessly mixed a lie with the truth. St. Benedict sat quietly as he took that in, thinking a moment. Then, may I patch myself up before I leave? I don't need a doctor. I just reopened this, so I can take care of it, he informed her. That's not unreasonable, I guess, Rune agreed. Inside, she let go a sigh of relief. After so many years hiding in plain sight, the last thing she wanted was to be discovered now. And whoever this St. Benedict person was, he didn't seem to suspect her. But how could she ask questions? About why he was looking for her when she had just said she couldn't help him? She couldn't afford to raise his suspicions. St. Benedict started to remove his jacket and grimaced as he pulled the fabric away from his shoulders, revealing the suspenders Rune had glimpsed earlier. There wasn't much blood until he started to peel back the sleeve on his right arm. Ugh, he moaned. The material was soaked dark red, a stark contrast against the whiteness of his button-up shirt. Ha. Do you mind turning the light this way for me? He asked courteously. The only light, other than the light streaming from the bathroom, was from the desk lamp, which also always turned on automatically when someone entered the room. Is that magic too? St. Benedict asked as he started to unbutton his shirt. She moved the lampshade so that it cast more light on him. It turned on when we entered. It used to run on magic, but after Maddie died, the spell fell apart. I haven't been able to find someone to recast it, she explained, then rolled her eyes a bit. Well, I couldn't find somebody that's within my price range, so I got one of those plug-in things from the hardware store, the ones that turn the light on when it senses motion in the room. Then I just ate instant ramen for a week. Rune looked about the small room. The office had changed very little since Maddie's passing. Her desk was the most prominent feature of the room, sitting before a double set of windows that looked down from a third-story view. The rest of the room was arranged in typical office fashion. 2 chairs of wood and dark green vinyl sat at an angle to each other in front of the desk. A Tiffany lamp of red and white roses framed by green glass sat on the corner of the desk next to a framed picture of Maddie with her arms wrapped around a smiling Rune. St. Benedict groaned again, drawing Rune's attention back to him as he continued to struggle with getting his shirt off. So, not everything is magic then? He asked through his grunts of pain. No, never is. Though we do still run quite a few things off of Maddie's spells. The whole place was run by magic when Maddie was alive, but now I have to switch things out for hominal solutions as the spells fade. Thankfully, technology has caught up to magic in the last couple of 100 years, Rune said as she watched St. Benedict struggle. Look, I can't take this anymore. Let me help you. She moved back to his side. His sleeve wasn't clearing his elbow on his good arm. Each attempt to free it provoked a groan, and then St. Benedict weaved drunkenly in the chair, making it even more difficult to take off the shirt. Hold on. Rune reached down to his waistband to unsnap one of his suspenders, which was tangled in the shirt. Hey, St. Benedict protested. What, you want to leave the suspenders on but not the shirt? Because I'm good either way, Rune quipped to cover up the tingles she got from doing, or rather undoing, such a thing. Undressing him was for the greater good, after all. She went deprived, however, as he unsnapped the other suspender himself, freeing his shirt completely. After a little wrangling, he let Rune guide his good arm out of his sleeve. Together, they peeled off the sweat and blood-soaked shirt. He sat there in his undershirt, revealing a long gash along the back of his forearm. Rune's eyes popped out of her head at the sight of so much blood. How did a broken bottle do that without shredding your jacket sleeve? It didn't. It reopened an existing wound. The problem is I didn't get that taken care of properly either. Now I'm paying the price for it, St. Benedict answered through gritted teeth. Do you pass out at the sight of blood? He asked belatedly. I guess not, Rune said, still staring. We can't do this here. You need stitches. It's fine. I just lost some blood too quickly, and it's making me faint. It happens when I give blood, too. he said as he opened up the first aid kit. Do you need a cookie? Rune asked. He chuckled tiredly. You keep making me laugh. That's surprising. He fished out one of the sealed sanitized gauze packets. That's good because you're scaring me, Rune said, taking the packet from him to open. So what happened to get you that? You don't know much about the corporate world, do you? He asked. No, should I? Rune asked as she laid the square of clean cotton against the cut, trying to decide if she should hold it that way or dab at it. No, it just explains why you didn't react to my name at all. He winced, and he held her hand down to get her to stop dabbing. What about your name? She asked. The Saint. It's a designation for my job. Oh, like DR for doctor or something? Don't worry about it. It's not common knowledge outside of the upper levels of management. Do you have some surgical thread and a needle? He asked, peering into the tackle box. Rune visibly paled. I can't sew stitches. Don't worry, I can do it if you thread the needle for me, he assured her. She blinked at him. That sounds insane. Or I can thread it myself. To sew up your own arm? Rune couldn't believe what she was hearing. Then she remembered something. Wait. She started digging through the tackle box. I think I've got something here. She pulled out a small clasp-closed box. The inside was velvet-lined and held 3 soft green crystals. What are those? St. Benedict asked, recoiling from the box. They're just healing crystals. I'm going to activate this, and it should seal that right up. She selected the smallest one and held it in her palm. She took a deep breath and tried to clear her mind, which wasn't easy. Even without the attractive half-undressed man bleeding a foot away, she focused on pushing her energy into the crystal. What are you doing? He asked after nothing happened for a few minutes. Rune blew out a breath of exasperation. The moment she did, the crystal flared to life, a spark of green crackling inside its faceted depths. Both of them jumped in surprise. How are you doing that? St. Benedict asked, this time with a hint of awe in his voice. You don't know how crystals work? All I know is that you have to be a talent to invoke them, he said. Rune didn't move a muscle. She stared down at the crystal. After 6 years, how could she make a mistake like that? When she used her talent on behalf of clients, she was always able to cover it up. Maddie was the proper wizardess, so most people assumed she had been the one to cast the spells. Rune was just the assistant. With a lot of training, anyone can do this. It's not my magic, it's Maddie's, Rune said, repeating her answer from before. It was partially true. The spell crystal was created by Maddie, but anyone with a source of magical energy could activate the spell inside. Clearing her throat, Rune focused on the task in front of her. She moved the reddened cloth to make way for the magic. At last, she coaxed the healing spell stored in the crystal to flood over the bleeding gash on St. Benedict's arm. The green light spilled out like water and slid across his skin to sink into the wound before disappearing. It worked systemically, so you might feel, Rune started to say, but then St. Benedict flinched back before she could finish, shaking his head and pinching his nose. Ugh, feels like a ice cream headache. He held the bridge of his nose for another few seconds until it passed. Rune looked down at the crystal in her palm, now completely clear, its spell spent. The crystal itself still had value, so she pocketed it for cleaning later. With Maddie gone, she had no idea how she was going to use it, but who knew? Maybe she could come into some money and be able to afford to have it recast with a new healing spell. Maddie's spell worked fast. St. Benedict stared down at his arm in what Rune assumed was wonder. It doesn't hurt. Amazing, isn't it? I was surprised by it too when I first came to live with Maddie. Rune put away the 2 remaining crystals. I have had little trust or need for magic in my life, St. Benedict affirmed, taking one of the damp claws and wiping away the blood on his arm. As the blood spiked off, a line of red appeared beneath where the original wound had been. Good, it stopped bleeding. That'll continue to heal over the next hour. You're going to be really hungry and sleep like the dead to compensate for the increased metabolism. Your body will also work overtime to replace the blood you lost, so like I said, make sure you eat a lot. Rune glanced over the newly healed skin on his arm as she repacked the rest of the first aid kit. See? Magic's not so bad. He grunted with a hint of incredulity. Magic cheats, but right now I need a cheat. I have done everything in my world to try to find her. You are or were my last hope. Why would you want to find her? Is she a criminal or something? Rune asked, hoping that wasn't too leading of a question. Have you ever heard of a man named Justin Masterson? He asked. Rune didn't respond, but he didn't seem to need one. Don't concern yourself if you haven't. Almost nobody remembers him, let alone knew him. He was famous only in a few specific circles, and most of those circles don't exist anymore. But how much do you know about computer technology? It's the newest big thing and everyone wants one. Computers try to imitate magic, but it's mostly about an exchange of information, right? Rune replied, remembering things Justin told her a lifetime ago. Exactly. The world is entering the informational age. It is trying to imitate the effects of magic, like your motion sensor light over there. But unlike your crystals, anyone can use it with little to no training. All computer technology is information-based. We're becoming an information-based world, and these data-crunching machines, what if they could read the language of magic? Rune blinked at the idea. But that's not how magic works. It's not just about saying the words to a spell that gives it power. It needs magic force to fuel and shape it. But without the magic user to shape it, to give it the idea of what the magic is to do or become, it's just energy, right? St. Benedict asked, getting excited by the idea. I suppose so, Rune conceded. Energy can be harnessed. An idea can be translated into numerical code. We are already proving that with the internet. Ideas are flowing faster than ever before between peoples that would never even meet, let alone talk. But magic can't be cast by a computer. It's impossible, Rune countered. We think that now, but 10 years ago, it was thought that these super machines themselves were impossible. Now, if computers could read and translate spells and then cast them, a whole new world would open up, bridging the gap between magic and unmagic people in a way we can only imagine. It would put humans on par with the magic races. Then we wouldn't be so dependent on magic for day-to-day living. These machines could do all that work. Aren't they doing that now? Rune asked, arching an eyebrow. Debatable. But the problem with people with talents is that the chance of a particular talent manifesting is hard to predict, and many people can become underserved if there aren't enough, say, talented healers. Yes, and full-blown magicians and wizards and the like are even rarer. I think I would know this better than you, Rune said, a bit annoyed. But irrelevant to my story, St. Benedict countered. About 6 years ago, we succeeded, at least theoretically. Justin Masterson, a genius computer programmer, is rumored to be the only person who found a way to translate a magic spell into a computer, and for the computer to cast the spell back successfully. His success has never been duplicated, and shortly after that, he was arrested on suspicion of embezzlement and a few other corporate crimes, along with his wife, Anna. The corporation that arrested him lost him, according to their official records. For the last 6 years, various powers that be have been trying to find him. All have failed. So why are you looking for him now? She couldn't help but ask. Because whoever finds the Masterson files first stands to not only become the wealthiest person in the world, but will be able to, his smile sharpened. Well, I think I can find him first. Through his wife. The sick feeling in the pit of Rune's stomach returned. What about his wife? She disappeared about the same time, but her records show that she was given into a protection program. Now, that turned out to be a lie. But there is no evidence that she was disposed of either. This means it could be still out there and free somewhere, which means she may know how to find her husband and all the secrets he has in his head. She may have a few of those secrets herself. Most of the computer technology we all use today is based off of his notes. but the complete secret to cracking the magic technology barrier was only in his head. It was strange for Rune to hear all of this from an outside perspective, stating simply as the facts of an event that happened to someone else, someone who had lived a different life far removed from her own. I wish I could help you, Mr. St. Benedict, but I can't help you find this Anna Masterson. St. Benedict blinked and shifted a little. Who I really need is Justin. Nor Justin Masterson, she said firmly. Of course, it was about Justin. It had never been about her. St. Benedict eyed her solemnly, and under his gaze, it took everything inside her not to shift nervously like a teenager in the principal's office. Don't look guilty, don't look guilty, don't look guilty, she thought to herself. He doesn't know. You say you can't help me, but you have a first aid kit that any battlefield medic would kill for. My jade coin was supposed to lead me to a powerful magic user, and it led me to you, he said. Look, I'm sorry about the coin, and if you want, I can reimburse you for it, really. From the way it sounded down there, or over there in the bar, things have been pretty tight for you money-wise since your master passed away, he said smugly, as if he had known he had played a trump card. We're going through a transition period, Rune said tightly, which is why you should work with me. Do you think that bar fight was something that just happened tonight? You started it. No, but the person I got my information from is the type to think, why make $1 when I can make 2? More than likely, I'm not even the first he sold the information to. What information exactly? That the old Magdalene had an apprentice with a hidden talent for finding things, which is exactly what I need. And I'm willing to pay you $50,000 for the service, plus expenses. Rune rolled that tidbit around in her head for a moment while this annoyingly charming man smiled, clearly satisfied that he had won some sort of argument. If this was any other job, she would have taken him up on his offer. She had learned enough watching and assisting May that she could, maybe, come out of the closet as a talent. Maybe she could get her wizardess license and take up helping people where Maddie had left off. Rune would have to pay a fine for being unregistered for so long. It was just a misdemeanor, except that would be how they would find her. Anna. The moment they checked too closely into her personal history, Rune's fabricated life would shred like tissue paper. She suddenly remembered all the reasons to say no. If it had been any other job or she was any other person, she would have accepted his offer to find Anna Masterson and walk the money to the bank whistling. It was to save her precious bar, after all. But that was insane. I'm sorry, I have to turn you down. Whoever this woman is, it sounds to me like she is much better off not being found. And I'm not going to be a part of anything that would ruin anybody's life, she said with a quiet, final conviction. St. Benedict's smile didn't fall like she expected. He continued smiling as he picked up his coat and rolled up his blood-covered shirt sleeve to hide the evidence of his nefarious dealings before slipping the coat back on. Once the coat was settled, he slipped his hand into his front pocket and pulled out a business card. When you change your mind, feel free to find me, he said confidently, holding the card out between two fingers, oozing dark and sexy confidence. She took the card with a show of reluctance, taking it more out of habit than anything else. Thank you for the offer, Mr. Saint Benedict, she said, shaking her head when she tripped over the Saint honorific as if it left a bad taste in her mouth. Sorry. Don't be. It was interesting meeting you, Ms. Laveau. I look forward to your call. He doffed his hat like all gentlemanly before heading toward the door. I won't be calling you, she said as he to his retreating back. Yes, you will, he said, and tried to turn the door handle for what would have been a graceful exit, except the door was still sealed. He stood there for an awkwardly pregnant moment. Do you think you could... Oh, right, the door, sorry. Let me get that for you. It was another couple of minutes before she remembered the words to unseal it and open it again into the bar proper. Having already said goodbye, St. Benedict nodded once to her in acknowledgement and sauntered down the hallway, knowing he didn't have to look back. Once he was gone, Rune looked down at the business card in her hand. It was black and shiny, written across in matte black print, almost indiscernible until you tipped the card toward the light. His name, St. Benedict, and a phone number graced the front. She tossed it into the garbage. Oh, crap, she realized. You heard my door password. I'm going to have to set a new one. She stared at the card sitting on top of the garbage, reconsidering, then shook her head. No. No way. I am never going to see him again, she decided. She saw him again 2 days later. All right, that's it.
Well, thank you. That was awesome. You did a great job reading too. And we have some questions from the audience for you. And I like that last sentence. That was funny.
Because it's only the third chapter, it's not over.
Yes, never gonna see you again. Yes, yes.
She's on.
You know how that goes. Well, allow me here to, I guess, I'm going to put this up really quick here, and we'll take this down so we can see your name. Okay, so for those of you who are out there, there will be a giveaway of this book. Now is the time to enter your name into the comments, and I will be taking them from the comments and adding them to the wheel of names. So please do that. And Megan, so here we go. Questions that we have for you from the audience. Is it hard to get published in this genre?
It's different to get published in this genre right now. I started out as a independent publisher, so like I did it all myself to begin with after I got my 50th rejection notice from literary agents that I was querying. And I was like, you know what? I don't need them to decide for me if I'm an author or not. And I just took a chance to put it out there. And there was a steep learning curve for me because I just sort of jumped, but I'm glad that I jumped because I wouldn't have continued to figure this out. So self-publishing wasn't terribly hard. It was just learning how to do it well that kind of caught me up. But I eventually got there, started going to cons, selling my book by hand. When I sold my 100th book, I got my rejection letter from Tor saying that there's no way to make my book successful in this market, which I thought was funny. And then after my first year, I sold 1,200 copies on my own. I joined up with Bard's Tower, and I've since sold several thousand copies of this book, and it's only growing. You know, so
no way to be successful.
Yeah, so it's not, but you might have to find a different route than the typical traditional finding a publisher and publishing. And it's not uncommon. People still do get picked up by the traditional publishers. But you know, it's all open Wild West territory right now.
Yeah. It is just always frustrating for me to hear, because you're certainly not the first author to have to be here and say that, you know, the traditional places are like, oh, this is a super saturated market. There's just no way to make this possible, et cetera, you know, and then you find these authors and they're like, you know, exactly what you said. And, you know, not going to let them decide, going to go do it. And then they're awesomely successful at it, you know? Yeah. So, and it's just so frustrating, you know, to kind of have that gatekeeper like that. So, another question was, how much research did you have to do into tech and magic in order to write this?
Well, magic was easier because in a lot of ways I could just make up whatever I wanted. And tech was where I had to do a lot more research, you know, like, and I did the best I could. I have a friend who was more of a tech-minded person, and he kind of sent me different places, like, go look this up, go look that up. Here's a video on how that works. And and I would find sometimes things that I had that were ideas that I found actually exist and would be further more developed than even I imagined. And so I would take that and like extrapolate what would that look like in a world where magic, it's being compared to magic. So like instead of technology building upon itself in our world, in my world, they had magic to like, magic can do this. How do I create a thing that can do that? and try to and so like my technology is a little on a wah-wah side, where like we'll have some things that are more advanced than we are and some things that are less advanced than we are, because the comparison that they were basing it on wasn't there, or they're building it slower, so
yeah, no, I really liked your whole usage of the crystal, how the crystal had, when it had the spell in it, it was a color, and then when it was done, it was drained out.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, how a cool representation of that. I don't know, that was
well, and in this world, magic, like the people who have magic usually have just one thing they can do really, really well. Like a pyro person can just do fire, an ice person can just do ice. And so what I thought was like, okay, so this society probably developed a way of giving each other magics that they can do. So then like, okay, the spell is in here and I just give it my magical energy and it can do the thing without me having to do this long ass ritual, and go through all this other hooplet, to get my ice magic to become fire,
Yeah, definitely. So they've already done it, and it's stored. And that actually is relatively in line with a lot of magical theory out there, depending on what tradition you're a part of.
Yeah.
Lemurian crystals and Atlantean crystals and things like that, containing information, as they say.
Yeah.
So we have do you have a hidden set of rules? Man, I feel like I have a frog in my throat suddenly.
Yeah,
Do you have I know, I'm like, where did this frog come from?
Yeah,
Do you have a hidden set of
advertising
money? That you have worked out ahead of time for the interaction between tech and magic?
I pretty much decided that the rule was that for most situations, there was going to be two options, one technological and one magical. And based on whose point of view I was following or what they were arguing about at the time, I would pick one or the other, or they would have to decide if they chose one option over the other, or, but I always kept trying to find the balance. And like, first book, I pretty much maintained the balance pretty well. The second book, even more so. Third book has now leaned a little bit more towards the magic side because of some of the story events that I had to progress. So more often the magic solution is coming up, and the tech got kind of sidelined, but I kept trying to thread it through, because now in the fourth book, when I start writing the fourth book, that's going to lean harder into the tech side, and the magic side will be a little thinner. Because we're going to go more into the corporate world of his world. And right now he's been kind of stuck in her world a little more. So I'm trying to always negotiate a balance. And that's kind of even true in my side stories. So like I have 2 spinoffs that I wrote about 2 side characters that I was just like, I'm not done thinking about you. One got introduced. One got introduced in the second one. And that's more of an urban fantasy story.
I think it's kind of cool that you did spinoffs of your own characters. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and then I have an antagonist in the first book where I got to the end and she just sort of like disappears from the story. And I was like, what happened to her? And I kept thinking about it, and she's really badass. And I really, really love this character. And I was kind of like, I can't leave you there. You have to have your own story. So actually her books will become its own side series on her own. I've written the first one, which is called Saint Code Lost. And it'll be the Saint Code series, and she'll be the hero. And what I really love about her is she is a Black character who I based off of a friend of mine that I went to acting school with, and who is now actually in like movies and televisions. Like she's in Westworld right now, and she was in.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she was in the one that everyone's talking about. It was by the Key and Peele guys.
About the what?
Where he gets hypnotized and he goes under. She plays the grandmother, the young version of the grandmother in that one. Oh my God, I'm
not sure
on it. Oh my God.
Now it's stuck in your forebrain. You're like, oh, it's hanging right there.
But anyway, I based this character off of her, because she was my friend in school, and my dream is that this will get picked up by Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, and they'll cast her in the part I wrote based off of her. That would just be like my absolute dream.
Amazing.
That'd be so cool.
Well, fingers crossed and a little bit of magic for that, right?
Yeah,
that would be amazing to see something like that. Hey, you never know what will happen in this world. And with all of the things going on these days, it's They are looking for content. They're looking for new things. So you never know what could happen, which direction something could go.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon from a famous person right now.
I'm currently 1 degree now from Kevin Bacon, because I was one of my small films when I was still acting. The actor in that has worked with Kevin Bacon, so I was like, my Kevin Bacon number is 1.
Well, there you go. It actually is Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Not just a famous person, but the actual Kevin Bacon. So we are coming up. It's 2:58 here, and that was actually the last question that I had from the audience.
Okay.
And so we're coming up here on the end, and this is typically when we do the drawing. So one last all call, if you are out there listening and you want to be entered to win a free copy of Megan's book, as you can see it right here, put your name in the comments right now. You have until this timer runs out, and then I will add you to the wheel. And if you are,
because it's easier to send it to you than a physical one.
Oh, Newton is asking, was the show you're talking about called Get Out?
Get Out. Thank you. Newton, you're awesome. Thank you. Oh my God. I can't believe I blanked on it.
I have no clue what you're talking about. So I don't.
It's fantastic.
Well, is it okay for you to say her name? Who is your friend?
Betty Gabriel.
Yeah,
Gabriel. She's fantastic, and she was the best of all of us in school. Honestly, like we all kind of knew she was gonna make it because she just had the thing that's indefinable about your talents, you know. So I'm really glad she's doing well.
Oh, halfway through. Yep. If I watch this show, I shall keep an eye out for her, and then I will be like, I know somebody who knows somebody. That would be so funny.
You're 2 degrees from Betty Gabriel.
So where can people find your books? Where's the best place for them to go for that?
Okay, the best, most ideal place to go for that would be my publisher's website, especbooks.com. And okay. I think you can find it like /project/Finder of the Lucky Devil. The next best place would be Amazon or Barnes & Noble or pretty much anywhere where they're selling books, because it's everywhere. So that would be my recommendation. But if you go to eSpec, we get more of the money, not Jeff Bezos. So,
all right. So the timer is up. I have the names. They are all entered into the wheel, which I will now share with everybody. So bring the wheel around here. I know, right? I always love doing this.
Oh, here we go.
Yes. All of our Patreon patrons get an automatic entry, and then plus anybody in the audience. So if they are already Patreon patrons, then they get a second entry with a maximum of 2. So, and the wheel then spins and tells us who.
Turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn.
Exactly. We slightly revised that so many episodes of Faye News ago to wheel of names, spin, tell us who will win.
I like that. That's very good.
But it was definitely based off that of the wheel of morality, turn. Mm-hmm. So I catch your reference.
You picking up what I'm putting down.
That's right.
Oh man, it's teasing now.
Oh, I know, right? It does this. It goes slower and slower. Here we go. Megan Arms is the winner. Congratulations, Megan. You get a free congratulations. Just one. I think I was supposed to say an S on the end of that word, but somehow I didn't. So I know, right? Congratulations, Megan. You get a free copy of I keep wanting to say it wrong. The Lucky Finder of the Devil.
The Finder of the Lucky Devil.
The Finder of the Lucky Devil. The Lucky. Close, so close.
Mhm.
Okay, yes, you win a free copy of Megan's book this afternoon, and we shall get your information and pass it along. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon for our author reads with Megan Mackie. And you can find all of her information in the low bar as well. So you can, look her up on eSpec Books. Or wherever it is that you choose to shop from. Please go give her some likes and subscribes. And if you buy a book, please remember to leave a review, because it is so important for indie authors to have those reviews. So, Megan, is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
No, this was fun. I'm really glad to kind of like see all of you and share with you what I've been doing for the last few years.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. So, and yeah, thank you. So
All right.
We will have a good Friday and a good weekend. So goodbye.
Bye.
I have pushed the red button.